Ready to do the intro, feel free to go on ahead.
Hello and welcome to Musical Lyrical Lingo. We're your hosts, Tim
and LJ. Today and every week we will be discussing musicals, but specifically what they taught us.
We're back.
We are.
2025, baby.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? 2025?
Yeah, and we have made our listeners wait.
Yes, we have. We
Sorry,
do apologise.
I just needed time.
You're a very busy person.
I am so busy this year, it's hilarious. But sure, we're all good. It's only January, sure. Still
and
breathing.
Hopefully you like the fact that we've made you wait, because you can see that there's been a few changes to the appearance of our musical.
Oh,
podcast.
yes. I thought you were talking about us there.
No, not us.
That's okay. It's like, have you done your hair up or something?
No.
Because I don't see a difference.
Okay.
But yes, I know what you mean. The brand, darling. The brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, new logo and a newbie intro.
Yes. Very, very show busy.
I know.
This season. I mean, it's season 3. We have to do something, don't we? We've got to amp the ante a bit.
Yeah. I mean, they're expecting it.
Well, yes, some might say, but I have also bumped into some listeners who I do meet on the daily, and they're like, I hope it doesn't change too much.
Oh.
I was like, oh, that's cute.
That is nice. That's nice.
Yes, I mean, the reason we have rebranded and changed it up a bit is because we only won bronze in the Irish Podcasting Awards, so we had to do something to snatch the prize. So 2025 will be our years. I am sure of it.
Some people would be like, we won bronze! And you're like, we only won bronze.
That is bad. I'm sorry. Yes, it is quite hilarious that we were up there in the top 3 for a podcasting award.
We really have to thank our listeners.
I know. Well, thank you.
Because
if maybe some more of you could have voted, we might have snatched the prize. But yeah, okay.
Oh dear goodness, I'm so glad we're back.
It's like being cast as the supporting male lead rather than the lead.
Oh, you've experienced that many a time.
Many a time. You joke with me. The one time in my career, my onstage career, where I was cast as the romantic male lead, I thought they'd done something. I thought it was a joke. Like, I was like, are you taking the mic? And they were like, no, really. I was like, oh, you've made a big mistake.
Oh gosh. Oh, dearie me.
Anyway, we're back.
We're back.
Raring to go.
Yeah, nothing will change or has changed too much. Just our appearance, keeping it fresh. Anyway.
Keeping it fresh. Keeping it tight.
What interesting theatre news have you got for us?
Yes, well, I thought what better way to start our new year than look at the year ahead of us and what exciting things are coming. First of all, into town, as they say in the biz, to the West End, and then maybe a few wee things to look out for on the road.
Yeah.
Because actually it's quite an exciting year for UK and Ireland tours.
So many, and even at the time of recording, there was a lot of announcements yesterday about UK tours.
Well, I don't know if I saw that announcement yesterday, so you can keep me up to date. So we'll go, we'll only do the first half of the year, right? So in town, starting in January, there is Scissorhands the musical.
And what do we think that's based on?
Edward Scissorhands, which I haven't actually seen the movie. However, I do know Matthew Bourne's done a brilliant dance production of it.
Oh,
yeah, it's one of the ones he did, and it looks really rather fabulous. It was on TV at Christmas time, so it is recorded and on the box. I just haven't watched it yet. Yeah, so Scissorhand the musical reinvented is its full title, is going to be playing in the Southwark Playhouse.
I like that we play us.
Yeah, on January 23rd until the 29th of March.
Very good.
Then February, we are looking at Clueless, the musical.
Very excited about that.
Just the latest in a very long line of films that have now made it onto the stage. So yeah, that's going to be open in Trafalgar Theatre in London on the 15th of February. March, this one is quite exciting for me because I remember seeing the movie, which if I'm not incorrect, starred Jessie Buckley, who in herself has had quite the acclaim on stage. in the film Wild Rose.
Oh yeah, it's
So,
a great film.
Yeah, and I really I loved her performance
hot.
of it. Now, I don't think she is taking
Connected
on
to
the
it, right?
role of it, but in March, Wild Rose will be in the Royal Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh. I would love to see that.
Be good.
I think it
The
would be
film
good.
is brilliant, and if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it.
Absolutely. And then in April, the 11th of April, get the big bucks out, because the Great Gatsby is coming to the London Coliseum.
And Jeremy Jordan's following it over the water.
I know. Fresh from Broadway. He just finished in Broadway there last week or the week before, maybe. So that's really, really exciting. And then it would be amiss to not mention this one, because I think you're going to probably harp on about it for most of this year.
Yeah, I am.
June, the 6th of June, 2025, in London's Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, will be Hercules, which the listeners are probably already sick of hearing about, because you went on and on and on about it at the end of last season.
But I'm so excited.
But this is the year of Hercules, right? So it's very exciting. I think more exciting is the UK touring circuit this year.
Okay, so what have you got news-wise?
I want to see Kinky Boots.
Yes, and it is coming to
Belfast. So let's have a look. I think it just did previews.
Yeah,
this
it did
last week. But it's starring Strictly Come Dancing icon Johannes. Who, when the casting was announced, I went, no, come on.
Oh, really?
But just because you see him as a dancer, don't get me wrong, he's probably one of the best professional Strictly dancers there is in the UK version. But I just would never have thought of him as a musical theatre performer. But apparently he is one not to miss. Apparently it is amazing. So it is going to be starting its UK tour. So check out its website for where it's going to. It'll certainly raise you up, boom ching. Calamity Jane is touring.
It is. No, with the lovely Carrie Hope Fletcher.
True, and that would almost make me want to go and see it. Maybe. So that's up out there for the taking.
Yeah.
Cruel Intentions. Now it was in the West End, was it last year or maybe the year before? It's now gone out on the road.
Yeah.
So that 90s musical.
Your 90s film, which has been turned into a musical.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say. You know what I mean. Tina's gone out on.
It is.
Yeah. Has it not toured before? No.
No.
Okay,
no.
So Tina's gone out. Another musical that hasn't toured before that is starting its first UK tour is Moulin Rouge.
I know, it's definitely coming to Dublin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's preparing itself at the moment, but I just don't know how that's going to work.
You've seen it.
I've seen it, and I've seen it in was it the Piccadilly, and so much is done to the theatre, which adds so much to the musical that it'll be interesting to see how they rescale it. Do you know what I mean, for a touring version? So yeah, and then obviously Here and Now, the spectacular Steps musical on a major tour, not just a tour, a major UK tour. So I would love to see that. And then there's Matilda and Miss Saigon as well. Like, those are big names for 2025.
And Yesterday, Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, okay.
Is going to be in town for a bit first, and then it's going on a UK tour.
Well, I'll bring my sleeping bag for that one. Not that fussed and fiddler, to be fair. I mean, there's a reason we haven't done it on the podcast yet, but anyway, far too many daughters for my liking.
It hasn't been around for ages, Fiddler, so that is quite exciting.
I think probably the last time Fiddler was around, our younger siblings were in the UK touring version.
Yeah, true.
Wasn't it? I think.
True.
Yeah. Fell asleep that time too.
Okay. Well, that was a lovely theatre news. Thank you for that. That was great. That was great.
We'll try and keep you up to date this year with all the goings-ons.
Yeah.
Right.
What are we doing?
I'm a bit nervous, to be quite honest with you. I feel out of practice.
Okay. And this is quite a big one for us to start back on.
Well, we kind of just went, what do we start back with?
Yeah.
It has to start with a bang.
Yeah. But not
or
too big a bang.
rumble,
Rumble.
and not a rumble in the jungle, if you
No.
know what I mean.
No.
But we wanted it big, but not too big. No,
Yeah.
big. It is.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
it
big.
It is big.
Some
yeah.
say it's the best ever, or it's
Some do say
yeah.
that.
I agree with what you're saying in your subtle
In
ways.
a subtle ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what rumble are we having today then?
West Side Story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
It says one of the most loved musicals at the top of your notes there.
beloved musicals.
Oh, beloved.
Yeah. One of the most beloved musicals.
All right. Well, I left the first two letters off.
And greatest love story of all time. I mean, it's Romeo and Juliet. So it's
absolutely set just a few blocks away from Broadway itself. West Side Story updates Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet to 1950s New York.
Mm-hmm.
For many people, from devoted fans to serious music critics, and I think this is where it holds a bit of power.
Okay.
West Side Story. The fans loved it, but also the music critics also loved it, and some say it's the greatest show of all time.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, not so much. It's certainly up there, but I'm not so sure you can give it that.
Okay, if I was to ask you, is West Side Story in your top 10?
No.
It's not in mine either.
Just because of the makeup of the show, I think.
Okay.
You know, I'm not so sure I get out of West Side Story what I look for in a musical.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair.
But I also appreciate the makeup of West Side Story and how of its time.
Yeah.
You know, and I can understand why it has sticking power.
Yeah, and why some people do love it.
I think so.
We know some people who this is their number one. Like, they absolutely adore it and could listen to the album on repeat.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way about West Side Story. It's not that I don't like it. I do, but I don't love it.
Yeah. It is one of those soundtracks that when you come back to it after a while, you do get a bit of a, oh, yeah, this is a good,
absolutely.
This is a really good soundtrack, and it gives you the heebie-jeebies, like, in a good way. Like, you're sometimes might, like, wee tiny hairs would stand up on my arms and stuff, because musically, it's
stunning,
very, very special. And Leonard Bernstein, who was the composer of the show, along with the writer Arthur Laurents, and then choreographer and director Jerome Robbins, like, made a brilliant show.
Yeah.
At the top of page 1 of Leonard Bernstein's copy of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the show composer scrawled, an out-and-out plea for racial tolerance, !
Oh.
And apparently his handwriting seemed rushed and difficult to make out, and underlined in a broad, empathetic sweep. Clearly, he was inspired, you know, from the word go, you know, reading Shakespeare's texts.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned book was Laurents and score was Bernstein, but lyrics are by a little person that we do know called Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah, and even his, you know, his path to being involved was quite special too for him.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it before where it was actually he was inspired by another famous lyricist. And
his mentor in many ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just interesting that I think that this was a project that he didn't want to take on board, and then Hammerstein said, give it a go.
Yeah.
Like, you do not know where that can lead to, and what just a wonderful way to think about life as well is just give it a go, and like, you just don't know where it could lead to.
That's it. And that's Oscar Hammerstein of Rodgers and Hammerstein fame. Yeah, absolutely.
So Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, retold in a modern New York City. Two young lovers from different sides find themselves struggling to navigate a world of hate, gangs, prejudice, and violence.
Absolutely. An early suggestion was for the show to be called East Side Story, which I think is hilarious.
I think it's hilarious. It was East Side Story, and then rewritten. We'll go west.
But it was originally East Side Story because they thought about showcasing the conflicts between Catholics and Jews on the streets of New York, but it didn't quite work.
No, and that's actually one of my very first musical Lyrical Lingos. I never knew that.
Yeah,
I didn't know
nor
that.
me.
So it was 1948. Originally, the plot focused on the conflict between an Irish Catholic family and a Jewish family living in the Lower East Side of Manhattan during Easter season.
Yeah.
So conflict was to be centered then on anti-Semitism of the Catholic Jets to the Jewish Emeralds.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we know West Side Story, the Jets have been kept, but it's the Jets and the Sharks. But there is a reference to the Emeralds where they talk about their previous confrontation being with the Emeralds. So
Okay.
it is a little throwback to
nice.
the original idea.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Actually, for a show that is now part of Broadway musical theatre history, exactly how the inspiration would take so many years to materialize is surprising. Like it was drawn out for years and years, and it was quite troubled for a long time. Robbins had difficulty getting his co-creators to actually commit to spending time with him, and he once wrote, "I'd tried to get the guys together and couldn't. They didn't want to do it at the start, but eventually the writers then stumbled upon a newspaper article about the street clashes between the Puerto Rican immigrants and the native-born Americans. 6 whole years after Robbins first brought them together, they finally had their setting. But 6 years.
I know, it's crazy, and it was literally just from picking up a newspaper in the Beverly Hills Hotel. And then it was, oh yes, that would work better. And I think then Laurents actually had, all of them I think had some sort of understanding of this conflict rivalry, so they felt they could write about it or do it justice.
And originally Bernstein had then planned to write the lyrics himself, but when pressures of work made that impossible, it was writer Laurents that suggested he hire a young unknown writer who had the advantage of growing up in New York's Upper West Side, and his name was Stephen Sondheim. Sondheim was deeply impressed with Bernstein, who wrote in his diary, "What a talent. It's like working with an alter ego."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I got that wrong there. Oh. Bernstein was deeply impressed by Sondheim.
Yeah.
That's what
Sorry,
Bernstein
I actually thought that's what you said.
wrote. Is it? Maybe it was, and my brain's playing tricks with me.
No. So also a lot was said about Robbins. So I want to ask you as well, have you ever watched his documentary, which was made in 2009?
Of course I have.
I was going to say, that's all right.
I haven't,
No. His documentary is about his life and work, and it's called Something to Dance About. It's on YouTube.
Okay, and there we go, folks. It only took us episode 1 of season 3 before Lauren dropped a documentary into the conversation.
But he had a really interesting mind, and I do think that's why some people love West Side Story too. It's how he choreographed it, really took the time. He went into high schools as well to understand how people were dancing, and he worked them so hard, didn't he, that they went through their clothes, they had to wear knee pads, and it was, I think it was a lot, but there was real blood, sweat and tears put into this production.
1000%. Stephen Sondheim was impressed with Lawrence's book, which is actually one of the shortest books in Broadway history.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. And according to the lyricist, a miracle of compression, just how he was able to compress the story so well. Tony and Maria falling in love in just 8 lines.
Yeah.
He once said, and you believed it.
Yeah, true.
However, it was, as you've said, that clear and concise and exact style of storytelling on West Side Story that arguably is largely down to the physical communication and the dance. And at that time, no Broadway musical before had ever been driven by dance. You had the ballet, which we've talked about way back in season 1 in Oklahoma. But it was a ballet placed into a musical, whereas here Whole sections of the plot were made clear, not through song, not even through dialogue, but through Jerome Robbins' explosive dance routines.
And the dance is very iconic. You know, the clicking.
Yeah.
You know, the hunkering down, the low level sort of dance, the swishing. I'm
You
not
did
a
so
choreographer.
well.
I was gonna say I'm not a choreographer, so I'm not even sure.
I am, but I'm impressed.
But yeah, that is very iconic and memorable, and in fact, it would be if you went and seen a production of West Side and those things weren't there, you would feel cheated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are needed.
Yeah,
to move
and
stories
this
along.
is the thing with, you know, groups or, you know, producers that do West Side Story.
Mhm.
It is that happy balance
Yes.
of making sure there's enough of a nod
Yeah.
to the original, but it's not a carbon copy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Listen, Robbins believed his own hype. He once said, "I really was so ahead of myself." Like, good for him.
Yeah.
He also knew what he wanted and he got it. Usually the rehearsal period for a new musical is 4 to 5 weeks, and he demanded that he had a longer rehearsal period.
Yeah.
So he got 8.
He did. Yeah.
But I mean, you can understand why it took 8 years.
And I think everybody that who was involved in the original production as well as the 1961 movie musical, said that whenever they were dancing, it was lovely to dance as part of a character and not just do like a 2-step because the choreographer wanted that in there.
Yeah.
It was every single move was because that character would have moved that way.
Yeah, that's it. And listen, the show was a smash. And its success seemed to only grow with time. A first Broadway run took place in the Winter Garden Theatre in 1957 and ran for 985 performances, nominated for 7 Tonys, won 3, including Best Musical, Best Choreographer, obviously, and Best Scenic Design. Then there was the London transfer that actually topped the Broadway production, running for 1,039 performances between 1958 and 1961.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that there's this thing about why has no work of Sondheim's lasted over 1,000 performances, and there's even West Side Story didn't quite make 1,000 performances.
It's very bizarre.
Strange. But yes, we've got the 1961 movie musical then, which was co-directed by Robbins and Robert Wise, who did Sound of Music. It is said that Robert was only he only needed to come on as co-director because the movie production needed a name. Really, Robbins could have done it himself,
right?
But there needed a big name.
Isn't that interesting?
And he did, and I think he did say in his book or memoir, he said, you know, actually, I was just a name. Robbins did it. He did the lion's share of it.
Yeah.
It was nominated for 11 Oscars and won 10, including Best Picture.
Isn't that outstanding though? Yeah. Like, what films?
Movie musical film, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, from all of the nominations, nearly walk away with every single one.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, and then remade in 2021 by Steven Spielberg, who always claimed that he would remake it. He had a real love for West Side Story. So he directed the film, and it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards and won Best Supporting.
Not as successful in the awards as the original.
No. People say that, you know, obviously with the pandemic that definitely did hinder it a lot. People weren't getting out to the theatres in 2021.
Yeah.
And then it went straight on to like a streaming service, so it was just difficult, I think, to drum up. But you mean it's good.
I agree. Listen, I wasn't offended by it in any way, and I also think Ariana DeBose, who did win the Oscar for her performance of Anita as Best Supporting Actress, was fantastic.
Yeah, she was very good, and how amazing that an Oscar has been won for the same role.
I know.
Rita Moreno
who also was then in the 2021
Yes.
film. I thought that was a really lovely touch,
Yeah, it's
actually.
nice.
And it's a bit like the Wicked film. Like, I
Mm.
love that they incorporated, Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel.
Yeah.
So anyone who hasn't seen the 2021 Spielberg adaptation of West Side Story, Rita Moreno, who did win the Oscar back in 1961 for her performance of Anita, she is also in the this 2021 version. She was also the first Latin American woman to win an Oscar.
I know.
How amazing. So in Spielberg's remake, she appears as Valentina, who is a reconceived and expanded version of the character Doc, who serves as a mentor to the teenage characters. And in this version, she sings Somewhere, and she single-handedly, maybe has something to do with Steven Spielberg, solved one of the biggest issues I had with the original musical.
Interesting.
Because in Act 2, Somewhere, one of the biggest songs in the song list, right? One of the biggest songs in musical theatre is sung during a ballet. But it's sung by, isn't it anybody's? Or is it even anybody's in some versions? And I'm just like, why is such a big song thrown away by a like kind of non-character? Do you know what I mean? Whereas actually in the remake, because Valentina, who had such a pivotal role throughout the show, her singing it gave it so much more depth and so much more weight behind it, I thought. Now, I know of some people who absolutely hated the Valentina character and couldn't understand why it had been done. I, on the other hand, thought it was a fantastic
I
choice.
agree. And I like it, and I think it also is a bit of we need to change, and we need to constantly be reminded that we need to look out for one another, and we don't look at our differences, and we look at what makes us similar. And I love that she sang that. So
and I also think in a show that's quite male heavy, let's be honest, you've got
great show for boys.
and you've got Maria. It was lovely to have another female role that was so pivotal and had such an important role to play. I thought it was great.
That was good.
Shall we talk about what we've learned then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go, folks. Musical Lyrical Lingos for 2025.
So like I said, my very first was the fact that it was originally East Side Story, and then it was going to be the Jets and the Emeralds. I then didn't know that actually that whenever they called it off, because Laurents called it lyric theatre. Laurents wrote a first draft he called East Side Story, and then he discarded the things because they were already in a play which is called Abby's Irish Rose. So I didn't even know about that play.
Okay.
Robbins then opted to drop out, and they all went their own way. The word and the idea of juvenile delinquents was actually juvenile delinquent gangs was thought up in that Beverly Hills hotel. So I didn't know that either. And I never knew Bernstein and Laurents were blacklisted for being alleged communists.
Oh.
So that is another reason why they were able to come together after 5 years, because not very many people wanted to work with them.
Okay.
So interesting.
I didn't know that either. That's quite shocking.
Yeah. I also learned about Oscar Hammerstein saying to Sondheim, move the song One Hand, One Heart to the bridal shop. And then as a result, the song Tonight was written.
Oh, so it wasn't originally?
No.
But do we know
One
where
hand,
it was originally
one
supposed to be?
was meant to be where Tonight would be.
Oh,
and they then moved it, and then they had to put a new song in. So
interesting.
Tonight was written.
Well, when you're a jet, you're the top hat in town. You're the gold medal kid with the heavyweight crown. Yes, I have been in the West Side Story. They sing every last bugging gang in the whole bugging street. On the whole ever mother loving street. Arthur Laurents actually created a faux street jargon
Yes, I loved
for
this.
the Jets and the Sharks to use that included the replacement of any expletives of other words because at that time there was really random obscenity laws where
okay.
certain things like I think there is a musical lyrical lingo further on that I've got where if it was in a soundtrack or in a cast recording or an album it wouldn't be played or it couldn't be distributed. So I thought that was quite clever. Maria, the song Maria, which is probably the most that was LJ singing there. That was not her having a stroke. You're a it was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
However, once you've heard Maria maybe once or twice, you don't need to hear it ever again, do you? Do you know how many times the word or the name Maria is sung in the song Maria?
73.
No, not that much.
All right.
30.
That's a lot for
It's a bit excessive, isn't it? And what makes me laugh is at this point in the story, Tony has only come across Maria like for about 12 seconds. How can you fall in love with someone in 12 seconds and feel the need to sing her name 30 times?
Well, true. My husband fell in love with me within 10 seconds.
Would you say that, Aaron? 10 seconds? Are you serious? 10 seconds is all it took.
10 seconds.
I wouldn't repeat that sentence in public, but yeah, whenever I first looked at her, I thought, yeah, I like her. Did I fall in love? Don't think so.
Did you go around the ice cream parlour shop singing her name? LJ 30 times?
30 times, yeah.
Bless, I'm gonna book. Where's the bucket? I see America on your page.
Yes, America. So I'm to be on a map. Do you know what? Probably our In the Heights episode was so bad. Let's not try to do Puerto Rican accent.
No, do you notice how we've steered away from yes, other foreign languages? Yeah, we're not doing that this year.
What I also find really interesting is we have the we have the 1957 version, which is the original, and then we have the 1961, which most people are familiar with because it's a movie musical and it was really accessible and really popular. So a lot of people know the words from that. We also have the 2009 mastered version, which Lin-Manuel Miranda helped translate it into Spanish. And then obviously we have the 2021. Each version lyrics will be slightly different. One of the reasons that the lyrics in America were changed for the 1961 film was because Rita refused to sing some of them because they were quite offensive.
Yes.
But anyway, in America in 1957, I obviously first hearing West Side Story whenever I was little. Puerto Rico, I knew it was an island because it mentions that it's an island.
Your lovely island.
Yep, tropical diseases.
Yeah,
So
island of tropic diseases.
Yeah, so I learned that. And then they talk about wire spoke wheel, which is just the suspension, obviously, of a, the way not all bikes have a good suspension. So that, and then...
That's why I don't ride a bike.
They talk about a buck, B-U-I-C-K, which is just a big SUV car.
Oh,
yeah,
Buick.
thank you. Buick. Yeah, sorry.
First mispronunciation of the season.
I was in English.
No, I was in English. America then in 1961, they mention a Cadillac, which is a car.
Yeah.
And then they mention a terraced apartment. So I didn't know
Yeah.
what a terraced apartment was, until I'd obviously listened to that. So I like that.
There was a lot in America.
Yeah, I like that there's different versions and probably you can learn something depending on which version you listen to.
That's a really interesting fact about Rita not wanting to sing some of the lyrics because they are quite offensive
and she
to
was
Puerto
the
Rico.
only Puerto Rican.
Yeah, so so there's in two different verses they say Puerto Rico, you lovely island, and then they say you ugly island in the next verse. Island of tropic diseases. Interestingly, the CIA fact book lists major tropical diseases found in Puerto Rico belonging to food and waterborne diseases, including typhoid, hepatitis A and E.
Ooh.
Now, Sondheim mentioned in his book Finishing the Hat. Have you read that?
No.
I didn't even know Sondheim had a book.
No.
Guess what I'm doing this year? He mentioned in his book, shortly after West Side Story opened, I received a letter from a Dr. Howard Rush, founder of Rusk Institute, complaining that I had maligned Puerto Rico in the verse. That in fact the island had very low incidences of tropic diseases. He states, I'm sure his outrage was justified, but I wasn't about to sacrifice the line that set the tone for the whole lyric. So thank you for your letter. Noted.
I'm not changing anything.
Yeah.
Artistic decision.
Exactly. It's always for the art, right? You poo-poo a whole country, but it's for the art. They also sing Nobody Knows in America, Puerto Rico's in America. And this could be referring to the fact that few people in America realised or acknowledged that Puerto Rico is an American territory, now a self-governing commonwealth.
Yeah.
Therefore considered in America.
In America. The other thing then that also I learned musical lyrical wise was, as you've mentioned earlier, about the made-up language, but made up was actually almost like an Alice in Wonderland type slang. So the gangs were able to say words that wouldn't age the show.
That is it.
Isn't that really interesting?
Yeah.
But then it's funny that no matter when people do West Side Story, they always keep it in the 1950s. So they did put language in it to make sure it didn't age it, but in fact people just stick with the 1950s sort of.
That's it. I just think it's one of those ones that when you go to see a West Side Story, you're wanting to see a West Side Story.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, and it takes a brave, production team to shake it up on its head a wee bit. Do you know what I mean?
True.
One of my favourite songs, Tonight, Quintet, end of Act 1, talk about like ending on a high. Tony sings, "Oh moon, grow bright and make this endless day, endless night." It's a great lyric.
I love that line.
Sometimes actually honouring Shakespeare in that line.
He is. That's why I love that line.
There you go, because Shakespeare says, "Come gentle night, come loving black bride night," etc., etc. So this verse of Tony's is a direct echo of a speech, Romeo and Juliet, which is somewhat too long to reasonably transcribe, but which contains the same complaint about the day passing slowly and the same longing for night to arrive and bring it with it joy and love.
Yeah. And also, if you remember, whenever Romeo is going to be banished, and she is like, "Oh no, that is not the sun. It is the moon. She's trying to convince him to stay.
Yeah. And interestingly, in tonight, it all began tonight. This line uses I have to get the right word, iambic pentameter, which is a poetic meter most famously used by Shakespeare, the man himself.
The man himself. Yeah.
I feel pretty, Lauren.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Oh, so pretty.
And witty and bright.
Yeah. Only Sondheim had a real regret.
Oh, okay.
The one regret he had was about that song, I Feel Pretty.
Did he not love it?
No, he said his lyrics for Maria in that song weren't quite right. They were too complex and too sophisticated for a young girl dizzy with love. And yet the song became one of the score's best known and most recorded songs. Everybody sings it. It's a bit like every male musical theatre star has sung Maria in their musical theatre album.
Yeah.
And then the opera singers start, and it's like, folks, can we please just
or
leave
just
it
leave
alone?
it. Can we all just leave it? Yeah, funny.
Just leave it alone.
I have a little bit about I Feel Pretty. That it's meant to be the light relief of the show. And because she's meant to show that she is happy and a young girl with young innocent feelings, but they are meant to, then the girls are meant to really make fun of her naivety. But it says they make fun of her, calling her out. She isn't in love. She's simply insane, and it must be the heat.
Radio, all right, girls. Jeez.
Yeah.
Great way
She's
of like
insane.
knocking the poor girl off her.
Yeah.
Off her wee.
I know.
Like, what am I trying to say? Not a pedestal, because she's not. Off her wee love
Aye,
cloud.
Yeah, off her wee, yeah, cloud. In G Officer.
Gee, Officer Krupke.
There we go. I knew
We're
song
really upset.
was going there. So this is the bit of the words, the made up words are just how they would speak.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Naturally.
But it's just naturally.
Yeah.
But it's Natcherly. Just helps you sing it, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
We obviously have the word delinquents.
Delinquents.
And
we ain't no delinquents. We're misunderstood. Deep down inside us, we are good. We are good.
There's
good.
marijuana is mentioned in it too. It's probably the first time I heard of that.
Yes, okay.
And it says SOB.
Son of a buzzard.
Son of a. And then leaping lizards.
Leaping lizards. That's why I'm so bad.
And name the other musical Leaping Lizards is mentioned in.
Annie. Leaping lizards.
Leaping lizards. Okay. So
yeah. In one of the it's one of my favorite numbers in the whole show. They sing, "This boy don't need a judge, he needs an analyst's care. It's just his neurosis that ought to be cured."
Yeah.
Neurosis, mental health, anxiety, and primary characteristic. Also, they sing, he goes, my sister wears a mustache, my brother wears a dress.
Yeah.
My grandma pushes tea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the tea is?
No.
That she's pushing? Pushing tea is a slang for pot dealing. There's your marijuana coming in. They also sing "Glory, oh ski, that's why I'm a jerk." And this is a catchphrase of the character Little Annie Rooney, who starred in the successful American comic strip, which ran from 1927 to 1966. Now, interestingly, they talk about this social disease. Like, I got a social disease. They're basically trying to work out why they're such a mess, right? And one of the professionals, they so-called see, says, "Oh, you got a social disease," and then they sing, "'Cause no one wants a fella with a social disease." Now, this line is interesting because it's kind of a sort of a double pun.
Yeah.
So early in the song, they refer to delinquency as a social disease, as a problem with society. That makes sense. However, at the time, a social disease was another term for a STI or STD.
Yeah.
And then G of is a crop you, which is how the number ends. In early drafts of the show, this line was actually supposed to say F you.
That's right.
Right? But lyricist Sondheim wanted to be the first lyricist to use like a 4-letter word in a Broadway musical. He's a naughty boy, isn't he? But Columbia Records objected, since it would forbid them to sell the recording of the show across the state line due to those obscenity laws that I was talking to you about earlier. So he changed it to Crop You. Sondheim has since maintained that it was the right decision and in his opinion the best lyric in the show.
I love it.
There you go.
That's good. Sometimes it can change. So I learned a lot musically from this show, but I want to show you this little thing that my mum used to collect.
Aww.
So we have West Side Story, which was number 1, and then there's like Kiss Me Cake, and there's lots of others. But I always found this fact really interesting, and this is my last musical lyrical lingo. So it does have a whole bit about Leonard and Steven. I call them first names because they're my mates. But did you know that...
Are they coming on the pod this year?
Yeah,
great.
Did you know that Audrey Hepburn they did want Audrey Hepburn to play Maria?
Oh, thank God she didn't play Maria.
But she didn't. They also wanted James Dean for Tony. Now that didn't happen. But actually what I found really interesting is in the film version, is Natalie Wood who plays Maria, but she's not singing. It's Marnie Nixon. And Marnie Nixon was also the voice of Audrey in My Fair Lady. Isn't that a really fun fact? So So I have this
those wee books are
lovely-
very cute.
They are lovely.
So they came with like, was it CDs or?
This is how old they are. West Side Story on CD or cassette.
Oh my goodness, adorable.
Absolutely.
And do you still have the CDs and cassettes?
I still have the CDs.
That's really cute.
And it goes into lots of detail about, in this one, you know, the movie as well as the original. I do have to just correct you because you said that the thing ran for 900 performances. It was only 734.
Maybe it's not counting the previews.
I think that's what it is. Because it
Wouldn't
says,
be-
and then return
wouldn't be
to
an
Broadway.
episode where you're not correcting me,
And
like.
return to Broadway for a further 249. So just in case anybody likes to fact check
So
us.
tell you what, do the sums,
Yeah,
add
exactly,
those
but
two
I'm just
together.
saying
So was
the
I
original
wrong?
was-
I'm not so sure I was wrong.
Was 734.
I think maybe you've just contradicted yourself. Do you have any standing ovations for West Side Story?
I'm going to say America is a standing ovation because it's a great song for an ensemble, but it character driven
Okay.
too, and I just love the choreography, you know,
Yeah.
the original and that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I love the Tonight Quintet at the end of Act 1. One of the best, I think, if we ever do a top 10 of Act 1 finale numbers,
Okay.
I would say it probably would be in my top 10 somewhere. I love, and you touched on something earlier in the episode about the translations that were put into the 2009
Mm-hmm.
cast record, the Broadway revival of it. One of my favourite songs is a Boy Like That. I love it. It's the
A Boy
part
Like
where
That.
Anita is given off.
Kill your brother.
Yeah, so much. I love it, right? But in the 2009 production, they had Anita singing it in Spanish, which makes it even more like, what? That's really cool.
Yeah. And I do like that in the 2021 version, Sondheim refused to put subtitles for the Spanish to give the English language and the Spanish language equilibrium.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
West Side Story gives me nightmares.
Why? Oh, because of the amount of time she's been in it?
No, I actually was only ever in it once.
What?
Yeah, no, I was only ever in it once. And you know what? It was one of those shows where I wasn't like jumping at the bit to be in. Do you know what I mean? I was only ever in it once. And another one of my stand ovations is the Dance at the Gym, because Leonard Bernstein's music is just like ba 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 da 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 da.
His music is wonderful.
Unbelievable. And then the mambo stuff, which he was inspired by the Cuban beats, and he was like, that was then written into Dance at the Gym because he came back and he was like, no, we need to put these rhythms in. But in the production I was doing, I was on stage ready to do the Dance at the Gym. The orchestra was playing the ba 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 ba, and I was standing, and my dance partner still was nowhere to be seen.
Oh, yes.
Like, nowhere to be seen. Literally, when I say she made it, in the last minuscule moment before we started dancing together, and it was obviously a Dance at the Gym.
Yeah.
Everybody was in couples. Everybody was dancing together. I would have looked like an
You would have looked
absolute
weird.
tool.
Yeah.
Like last millisecond, which it's quite funny because even to this day, if we bump into each other, she would still every so often apologise to me, going, I can't believe I did that to you. And I was like, yeah, I can't believe you did that to me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
Yeah, I'm glad we started with
Yeah.
it. You know, some people will have a lot of love for this, so hopefully that you even learnt something a little bit from what we have said.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't adore it, it's just definitely one that it's nice to take a break from it and go back to and sort of revisit. It wouldn't be one that would be constantly listened to 24/7.
Can I get on my high horse for 1 second?
1 second, go for it.
I think if you're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
you only do it if you have the right cast.
Absolutely. I think that's very, very important.
Don't be doing it if you don't have a Puerto Rican cast.
No.
Because gone are the days where we can, you know, those days should never have been here in the first place.
No.
You know, don't be tanning people up.
No, they did it for
To
the
be-
1961 film.
Yeah. And they
it's
shouldn't
not
have done it
acceptable.
then.
No.
Especially when, you know, at the top of Romeo and Juliet, Leonard Bernstein writes what he wrote, you know, a cry out about racial tolerance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do it with the right cast.
Perfect.
All
A
right.
good note to end on.
Now, let's end on a high. What would Paddy do?
Okay, what would Paddy do?
We've got a
new
wee
section.
extra feature just to finish each episode on this
Yeah.
year. So,
And it's quick fire.
quick fire, right? No thinking. So, I'm doing this week's What Would Paddy Do?
Okay.
Basically, imagine your agent has been on the phone.
Okay.
You've got 2 offers on the table. And we're saying, what would Paddy do? What would the musical theatre legend Paddy LaPone do?
Okay.
Now, we can answer it from our point of view.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to be Paddy.
Pretend to
However,
be Paddy.
my impression of Paddy
Yeah.
is, you don't have the range, darling. I'm not doing musical theatre anymore. I'm doing strip plays. So, this week's What Would Paddy Do?
Okay.
Your options are, would you dance a powerful America in West Side Story, or a seductive cell block tango in Chicago?
Oh,
Go.
I'm gonna have to go cell block tango because I'm not Puerto Rican.
Good point. However, dancing a frilly dress or dancing frilly lingerie?
I know, in fishnet tights and
And
pants.
fishnet tights and pants. You're gonna do cell block tango, aren't you? Fishnet tights
me.
and pants. Holy moly! Well, there we go. We're back with a bang, folks.
We hope you enjoyed, and we cannot wait to be continually in your ears in 2025.
Thanks for sticking with us. Till next week.
Bye.
Bye.